In this video, I am going to share why anybody would buy a property in a trust. I hope that this video is going to be really helpful if you are planning to buy a property in a trust and what are these advantages that you can get. So let's dive into it. So what's the number one reason that why you buy property in a trust is asset protection. It means that it actually protects the asset from some litigation. Let's say if you buy property 3, 4 or 5 in your own name and one of the property has some litigation, some issues, or even in your own personal circumstances some litigation happen, then all the properties are up for grab. It means that you won't be able to protect any of these assets because everything is in your own name. And if somebody sue you for whatever reason, and let's say 500,000 can be extracted from your property's equity because all these properties in your own name. Whereas if the property, if one of these property in a trust, and it's just, as you know, trust is a separate legal entity, it means those properties cannot be touched because it is not in your name, separate structure, and hence those properties are not going to be touched. You won't be, so even though personally you are sued or any other properties which are not in the trust is sued, then the property in the trust will not be touched. So another example that I would like to give is, let's say if you have 5 properties and all 5 properties into 5 different trusts. It means if one of the property has issue, that means that particular trust will be affected. All other trust will not be affected because those are separate legal entity. Whereas if everything is in your own name, then all this is like in one umbrella. So separating it out, you are actually protecting your assets, that you are making sure that not everything is up for grab for any litigation. So that's one of the number one reason why people buy property in a trust. The second reason people buy property in a trust is it's a separate legal entity. It's because it's a separate legal entity, it's not in your own name, so you don't own that asset. So if you buy a property in a trust, it means that trust own the property, and trustee, who is actually a company, and you being a director of the company, and that company controls the trust, hence you control the property but you don't own the property. What it means that whenever you take bank loan, you actually are guarantor of that, and the trust own the property. And as you know that because it is not in your own name, the property is not in your own name, hence that you don't own the loan and you can borrow more as compared to if you buy in the property in your own name. So one of the example that I can give is, let's say if you have 5 properties and each one is 500,000 and you took 80% loan, 2.5 million into 80%, that's 2 million, all the loan against in your own name. Whereas if you have this property in a trust structure and each one like one trust, each one property, that means all these trusts actually have the loan and in your own name there is no loan. Of course you are the guarantor of the loan, but guarantor doesn't mean you actually own. Hence you can borrow more money from the bank just by putting property in the trust. That's another example of, or another reason of why people buy property in a trust. Third reason why people buy in a property in a trust, that is passing on to the next generation. As you know that property, when it's bought in the trust means it's has a trustee, and the trustee is nothing but a company generally, and that company is the director. Generally if you are setting it up, you are the director of a company, that company controls the trust, and the trust actually buys the property. So in the event if you want to pass it on to the next generation, which is your son, daughter, or anyone else, all you need to do is that company which is has a shareholder, generally it's you will change the company shareholder to someone else, and that person then controls or becomes the owner of that company, and that person become the owner of the company, that company controls the trust, hence anything in the trust is theirs. And similarly that person can change it to someone else and it can pass it on to different generation. Bear in mind though, the trust is set up for 80 years, which is like at the time of set it up for the next 80 years, and after that you have to dissolve and create a new trust. Another reason why people buy property in a trust is tax advantage. When you buy a property, particularly if it is a positive cash flow property, which means it is making money, not losing money, then at the end of the year you can distribute the profit of the trust income to someone else. Let's say if you have an 18 years old son or 20 years old daughter or anyone else who has less income, you can distribute the profit to them and they will pay their marginal tax rate, which might be lower because somebody who's an 18 years old might not have much income, and you can legally minimize the tax. Whereas if everything is in your own name, that means all the income will come to you, and if you are working already and if you already highest bracket tax income, this will shoot up even more and you will pay a highest marginal tax rate, which could be like in Australia about 45 to 47%. Whereas the same income, if it goes to a lower bracket income, if your spouse or if someone else who has less income, then that tax can go up to like 15%, even 18, even sometimes 0%, depends on how much you are distributing. So there is a significant tax minimization that you can use by buying a property in a trust, and particularly if it is a positive cash flow property. And the last but not the least is the control over ownership. You don't own the property if you buy in a trust, you control it, and everybody wants to control more and own less, because if you own less, then on paper you don't have anything, and it is highly likely that you will be sued, or you'll be, if you are a public figure, or if there is a chance that you will be sued, it is always advisable that you buy properties in a trust, that it will actually help you to protect your assets. So these are the main reasons, why you would buy a property in a trust. It is advisable that you seek a professional advice, you talk to your accountant and lawyer before you buy a property in a trust, because it's not very simple things to, you need to spend some time to understand all the different pros and cons. And particularly in this video I am saying why somebody will be buying property in a trust, and those are the reasons. I hope you really like this video. If you do, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. That will really help me to reach out to more people, and I'll be more motivated to create more videos like this. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.